where were you born and when did the artistry kind of come into place for you?
For sure. Well, really quick, thank you so much for having me on, Martin. I'm really excited to just dive into everything. But yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I was born in rural Virginia. I was born and raised there, and I moved to Iowa when I was 16. So that's just a little bit about like where I'm from. I didn't get into acting until college, actually. So I always knew I wanted to be an actor. It's just one of those things you just know. And I didn't really get a chance to act or anything just because of me living in such a small town and I was so heavily involved in sports. So I was actually planning on playing volleyball in college, whether that was, at a smaller school or what have you. But um, I watched a play though in high school, and it was High School Musical on stage. I think I was a freshman in high school, and that's just when I really knew that's what I wanted to do, and um, I knew that was my path instead of sports. I don't know how to explain it. It's just one of those things that you know.
Mm,
Um,
For sure. I kind of want to dive into like how because I agree. Like there are some instances, there are some signs to where like this is your path. But I want to rewind a little bit because when you're in the beginning and you're kind of understanding that this is meant for you, or you want to try this, let it be because it's fun, or you feel like it's like an itch for you. Um, Kind of saying it that way. But what were some of the struggles that you kind of encountered? I know you mentioned that in your town that there wasn't really much for acting, and it wasn't until college, but what was some of the struggles that you were kind of dealt with in the beginning?
For sure. I come from a very traditional family, and I just don't think they knew too much about acting. And um, I remember I brought it up a couple of times, but nothing really ever happened of it. And especially because I was so involved with basketball and volleyball, I didn't even have time to even pursue it if I wanted to. So I'd say maybe the struggles were just my location and also just lack of time at that time. But when I went to college and I took my first class and I did my first play and performed in it, I just absolutely fell in love with it and knew it was just better than I expected. And I don't know how to explain it, but when you just know acting is like the path, I would say maybe it was just a calling. I don't know how else to describe it, just purpose.
Absolutely. Do you remember your first performance? You mentioned it was a play. Was that your first performance?
Yes.
What was that like?
Well, I was just insanely scared. Like the stage fright was just so, um, you know, de- it's debilitating. Maybe that's like the right word for it, but it was also so relieving as well that I was able to put up a performance in front of so many people. And um, I don't know, it was insane. It was a really great experience though, and I got to do theater all throughout college, and then doing theater was a great experience. But I knew from that's when I wanted to get into film and television because that's definitely more my speed.
Did you find it interesting that the transition from theatrical acting, if you will, from theater to television and film, did you find any challenges there?
It's definitely very different. Theater, you have to be a lot more animated, and you have to project a lot. And that was the biggest thing that I think I struggled with in theater was projecting, so everyone in the room can hear you and keep the same. I don't know, like intensity, or like if it's supposed to be a quieter scene, how am I supposed to project that? When I'm supposed to be like whispering in the scene. So that was a little challenging for me. Film though, I felt like I was able to adjust pretty well though, because film is a lot more still and um, it's just a different type of technique though.
What do you mean by, I guess, still?
Mhm.
What do you mean by that?
So you're not so animated in film, and you have to just animate your emotions. You just feel them. You don't show them in film, and that's a whole different challenge in itself because I notice with nerves, I tend to just move more in in front of camera. But I've noticed, like just studying actors, though, how still they are, and it's just a more powerful performance, honestly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great response. I feel like when I was with an acting coach, he just emphasized a lot on just being subtle. You know, the
Yes.
camera's going to pick up whatever it needs to pick up, just feed it little by little. So
Mhm.
that's great. What is some advice that you would give somebody who, may look up to you and, oh man, Haley's so awesome, posting on social media, doing your thing. What is some advice that you would give somebody who's never done acting? Where would be a great place for them to start, in your opinion?
For sure. Headshots mean everything. I came to Arizona with my first set of headshots, and I just didn't book anything.
Mhm.
And I was lucky if I even got an audition. And I finally got professional headshots done here by Scott Hayes. Unfortunately, he had passed. He's passed, but
Oh man.
he he just helped me out so much with those incredible headshots. I just started getting a lot more calls for auditions, and I was booking a lot more. I was booking off of headshots. So the very first thing for people wanting to start and get involved with acting is just invest in headshots for sure and get those. And also just training. Training really changed the game for me as well.
Training. What do you mean by training?
Acting classes, just get involved in class, just get involved in projects just as much as you can, because experience is really going to help you down the road. Training was, I feel like, the biggest thing for me, and just like getting technique down. And I still have so much to learn as well. That's the really cool thing about acting, is you just never stop learning.
No, absolutely, and I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Still continuing on the realm of somebody being entry level and where to get started. So a lot of people are not going to start right out the gate being signed with an agency.
Mhm.
So in the beginning, you're kind of running and gunning on your own, to kind of put it in that term. So where do you find like projects? Where would you find your bookings? Where would you find these postings? Day one.
I mostly started with backstage and surprisingly Facebook groups. There's actually some good stuff in the Arizona
Hmm.
acting community pages. So I mostly just booked through that. Actors Access and casting networks are great as well. Um, a lot of booking is also from networking, I've noticed, and social media, just connecting with people in your area. And I've booked roles just off Instagram before as well, just knowing the right people.
It is, especially feel like in this day and age, if we can just leverage social media to our benefit on following the certain stuff that's no longer serving us, and let's get on the train of following people that are influential in our lives, that are doing what we want to do. Even on a local level, I feel like Arizona is it's got so many local heavy hitters, if you can kind of put it in that term. And there is a little rumble happening. A lot of us do feel it. And I'm honestly very excited to see where a lot of us do go, the people who do take this industry very seriously, and I understand that that is a small few. I don't want to dive into that too much. I kind of want to rewind a little bit. Do you think it is important for somebody to be signed to an agency?
Dang, that's a loaded question, Martin.
It is, it is, it is.
um,
Because I know you did recently just get signed. You were
yes.
talking about that, which congratulations on that. That's very huge.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't think you have to be signed to be a successful actor, but I do think you're going to need to be signed in order to get to a certain point. If your goal is to, be on Netflix or be on Hulu and be in theaters, like we just don't have access to many projects. Like maybe if you do a lot of networking, you know the right people, then you wouldn't need an agent per se. But I just don't know how else you could get to that point with that one. So I think leveling up, agencies are very important, and especially with commercials, just to protect you as well.
Hmm. I
But
agree. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, but yeah, like you said, I recently got signed, and I was able to be a part of amazing projects that I just booked myself. So having an agent isn't crucial in the beginning. I think honestly, you should get training and get your materials in order before getting signed. But that's just my opinion.
No, absolutely. I feel like it depends on what state you're at, also depending on what agency in that state has to offer. As we know, so many different agencies focus on or specialize in certain categories. Some do all, some will do the television and film, as you know, commercials,
Yeah.
print, runway, modeling, and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, but no, awesome, like really, really good advice. So you said in college, that's when it really started to kind of come together for you.
Yeah.
I also want to ask a question back in that time. Let me see. Where are we at? Let me see. So you mentioned techniques, and I know you didn't want me to talk about this, and it's not like I'm looking for like a textbook answer technique, but what is something that has stuck with you that you can always like reach into your actor's toolbox, for example, and kind of use that as like a point of reference when it comes to like studying scripts? Another loaded question, and I'm sorry.
Let's see. I feel like the biggest thing that really stuck with me technique wise is just role prep.
Hmm.
And I learned that in one of my classes, the 7 steps, who are you? I'm not going to go through all of them, but
Hmm.
the main thing is just really understanding who your character is and finding similarities within yourself and finding the similarities with your character. Just understanding your character and understanding why they do the things that they do helped me out a lot because beforehand, I know this is kind of embarrassing, but I just felt like I was reciting lines. I didn't really have any emotion in it, and I didn't have just a character. I felt like I just was saying lines and there wasn't much to it. And I felt like I was able to really understand the character and just give a much better performance once I learned how to really dive into role prep and rehearsing properly, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
I feel like you kind of already answered this next question, but do you think it's more important to know your character or for you to know your lines?
Oh, character,
Okay.
1000%. Yeah.
Bet. Okay.
And because I used to be the actor that was like, I need to know my lines, I need to be verbatim, I need to just have every single line down, and I would focus on that. But then I'm just giving a dead performance. I'm not, there's no life to the performance.
Mhm.
So, and I improv a lot too, which I mean, I should probably stop improving so much, but I feel like people don't care as much as long as the emotion is there and the character is there. If you ad lib a couple lines, they're not going to care if it's a good scene. But
Mhm.
like I said, that's just me.
No, absolutely. I mean, again, there is no right or wrong. I want to get your opinion. I kind of want to get your truth and your journey. You know what I'm saying? So, what was it like your first year auditioning?
Man, um, it was just looking back, it's just so funny because I've learned so much about the audition process and like what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. And the first year, I just didn't know anything. I was so naive and just, yeah, I would say just funny the first year. But I mean, it takes a year of going to auditions and learning and failing honestly before you start to understand what it's like and start to get really good at something.
Mhm. How thankful are we for no longer needing to go into an audition room? We can now do self tapes at home.
A lot.
What was that experience like? Have you done like walking into a room in person auditions?
Mhm. Um, Surprisingly, I book a lot more of those than self tapes.
Mhm.
But I've done that, and it's nerve wracking. But I feel like it also gives you an advantage, so you can just talk to the people and like just talk with them personally and just make an impression that way. Because with a self tape, you don't really have that except a slate, and a slate you don't really get to show off your personality either.
Mhm. No, I feel like honestly for you that's probably the theater experience talking. That's where the confidence would stem from to be. Of course, you're going to be nervous. Everybody is, but it's
Yeah.
how well you can portray not being nervous. And as you know, when you walk into a room, like they understand that you're going to be nervous. They're probably tired. It's been a long day. Even if it is early, you got an early call time to come in and audition. They've probably been there a few hours before and they want you to win. You know what I'm saying? But how do you put your nerves to the side and really try to just give a good audition or a good performance? How are you able to put your nerves aside?
Um, Well, funny story, really quick about nerves. I was so nervous one audition, and I actually tripped somehow. I just like tripped over my sandal.
Like
I was,
tripped and fell?
I literally fell. Yeah, it was so
Okay.
embarrassing. But and it was on camera too, of course. I even asked him. I was like, "Were you recording?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "All right, sick. Let's just pretend like that didn't happen." And I ended up booking it because they
Sick.
saw me as like a person. They just saw me as a person that has flaws just as much as everyone. Because I feel like actors try so hard to be perfect, and that's
Mhm.
something I'm trying to work on as well. Is just being okay with failing. But there was one way I just used nerves to my advantage, where I just joked and just played it off, like, okay, let's just do this thing, even though I just like fell. But um, I I get really nervous for auditions though, and with self tapes, and even in person, if I'm super nervous, I'll just try to use that in the scene. Like, what is my character nervous about, especially if it's an intense scene or just where it's necessary. If my character is nervous, I just use those nerves and just feel them and perform it that way. But
Mhm.
that's just how I do things like that if I'm just having a lot of anxiety about it.
It is tough. I mean, you got to feel your emotions, one thing. And again, kind of rewinding and going back to like, how do you put your nerves aside? I love that you said, well, you kind of don't put your nerves aside. You feel how you feel and you kind of
Yeah,
play
like
off of that. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love how you kind of reversed that and kind of made it very true because I mean, in the beginning, you want to do well. You are the artist, you are the performer, you want the audition to go well, you want to hear that callback. And at the end of the day, like being an artist, being a performer, not only being in front of the camera, but doing stuff off camera as well, shooting, directing, producing, whatever that may be, you're going to be your biggest critic. You know what I'm saying? But I
1,000%.
think you nailed it on the head. And I can also add to that is just be willing to fail forward. Like, so what? Who cares? You tripped and you fell. How amazing was that? You probably got up and you finished it.
Mhm.
And they love that because okay, what if something like that on set happens? If something is to fumble, doesn't go our way, would she be able to kind of pick it back up and go? So I think that that's also a check in their book as well. Just kind of looking at it from a different perspective and a different lens, you know?
Mhm. For sure.
So my next question, what's the most important thing to you in order to say yes to a project?
The most important thing, um, I feel like the script. If it's a really good script and I can see myself executing a role and even the other actors, I I would love to be a part of it. I would say that's the most important thing for sure. Is if it's going to just leave an impression with people.
Mhm. And then what's one thing that you get typecast for? This is a two-part question. I got a follow-up question, but I want to hear your answer. But what's one thing that you get typecast for?
I always cry in my roles. I'm always like sobbing and crap. So I feel like the emotional person, and also I have RBF like crazy. So just the intense roles. So um, I've gotten cast as a soldier twice now and a sniper. So just something where it's really
Sick.
intense. Yeah.
And then what's one role that you do want to play?
Just like a badass cop, or I would also love to play an athlete too. So have you seen the show All American?
I have, yes.
You have? Okay. I would love to play like a volleyball player or a basketball player in a show very similar to All American.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a
That'd be sick. That'd be fun.
Yeah. I would love to do a drama series similar to that, and I love crime shows too. So, and I got my degree in criminal justice, so I'm just all about that type of stuff. I would love to play a detective in a show like that.
That's very cool. I feel like for a television series, you do something athletic, which wouldn't take much prep. I mean, obviously you need to prepare, but again, it's going reaching back into the old experiences of you being younger. Let me just highlight the fact that you have your criminal justice that degree. That's super badass and very cool. So I
Yeah.
applaud you on that. Proud of you on getting your degree on that. And then to be on a drama series, you can kind of use like your criminal justice degree. That's super cool. What I love about this podcast that I'm beginning to understand is like, obviously it is titled artists with artists, not specifically actors on actors,
Mhm.
because a lot of these people that I'm bringing on, such as yourself, myself, we have way more to offer than what's seen on camera. A lot of people probably wouldn't even know that you have your degree in criminal justice, not for this episode, or they would not know that you're very athletic and you come up from volleyball and doing theater. So that's super cool, man. That's super awesome.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. But leading into my next question, what is your favorite genre to watch?
Movie or TV series or either?
Just like in the sense of like action, adventure, horror, drama,
Mhm.
romantic comedy.
Um, I love scary movies actually, but they do scare me to act in. 'Cause I don't know how they do it. I feel like acting terrified would just be so hard to pull off. So that's something that I would be like a little scared to act in, but it would be a really fun challenge. I also love more so like thrillers and mysteries. So I do love things like that.
So what do you mean scary movies are hard to act in? Have you acted in a horror film?
I've never acted in a horror film.
I feel like a genuine anything is hard to portray, like anything that's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But yeah, I feel like horror would be interesting, and I feel like you would do great in horror.
thank you. Yeah, that's something that I definitely want to check off my list. I definitely want to act in one of a horror film, but it's just something I'm a little scared about too, just because it would be out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, who's somebody that you want to work with in the industry, like on a local level? We can potentially make something happen.
Oh, okay.
No, seriously, that'd be cool.
Well, I don't know anyone off the top of my head.
Come on, yes you do. Everybody's got like a little list. I got like a little list that I want to work with people that are super on a like on a local level, Arizona. Like we go to these events, we see these people, you know what I mean? Which I've only gone to like one event. But
Okay.
yeah.
Um, I would say someone who I think is very talented, Drew Lopez. He's done some really good things, and he's booked some really cool movies. So I'd say him.
Absolutely. And I agree. I follow him on social media, and ever since I've been following him, he's been booking and killing it. So absolutely. And I know he comes from an athletic background too, from his videos that I've seen. I know he does a little bit of coaching on boxing, which I got to
Mhm.
pay him a
Yeah,
visit so
that's
your boy
cool.
could sharpen up. But is there anybody else that is there anybody else that you'd want to work with?
Um,
I know it's a tough question. I know you have a few people, I'm sure.
yeah. I've always wanted to act alongside my coaches too.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I was cast in a movie with Sean Dillingham. He's one of my coaches, and unfortunately, that movie was closed. Like, we didn't go through, I guess. But
Mhm.
I was really excited to act with him, so I'd love to do another movie with him and just see him on set. He's such a goofball. So I
I
think,
feel like his energy would be cool. I know you've been getting me to want to take his class, and I will. I will pull the trigger soon. I just got a few things
yeah,
I got to get
come on now.
straight away. I will. I will. I promise you, I will very soon.
Okay, promise.
Yeah, and that was my next question. Who was somebody you wanted to work in the industry, and you answered that. But next question: what inspires you to act? What's your inspiration?
Wow. Um, it gives me purpose. It gives me a reason to get out of bed every day and just strive towards my goals. Or- I don't know. It just is something that makes me very happy, and I get to play. I get to just forget about everything and just be in the scene, be in the moment. So I just absolutely love it. It's such a fun art form.
No, absolutely. That's perfect. And again, there is no right or wrong. I just want to get your answer. You know what I mean? Sometimes the answer could be short and sweet and perfect in that way. Sometimes it could be long and again, perfect in that sense as well. So
Yeah.
there is no right or wrong.
What about
Um,
you? I feel like acting is just one of those things where I feel like it's just so fun, you
It's
know?
definitely a privilege for sure. Like when you get booked on something, and if it's your first time, second time, whatever time it is, like number one, it's a blessing because it is a competitive industry. At the end of the day, like we got to understand it is a competition, but let's approach it in a sense of healthy competition. You know, if you get rejected for one, who cares? Go for the next one. I try to look at it like a job interview, and I love job interviews. Have you gone to a job interview and the interview has gone great, but for some reason you don't hear anything back? You're like, what the heck, man?
Yeah,
Everything flowed perfectly fine, but for whatever reason it doesn't work out. Or you go into another job interview and you're like, dang, that interview was horrible. I don't know if it was something I did or something they did. And then you end up hearing back from them, oh, Haley, that was great. We want to call you back. Like, okay. So you really never know how it's gonna go. I feel like half the battle is just showing up for yourself, man. You know what I'm
absolutely.
saying? And believing that you can. And you had mentioned that you find purpose because you get to not only discover yourself, but you get to enjoy other people. You're welcoming all different walks of life, and we're all coming together to kind of figure out our purpose together and move a message forward. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's a lot deeper than just shooting cool stuff. It's a lot deeper than just putting on a suit, getting a fresh cut, and just
Mhm.
typecasting somebody to play something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up just because a lot of people do think it's glitz and glam, but actually it's insane discipline that you need to have. It's consistency, it's constant rejection, and through all of that, actors still love it so much. And that says something too.
I feel like life itself is the best teacher in anything. And if it comes to acting, sure, we can look to certain individuals that inspire us, that have came before us and that are still here and that are still
Mhm.
killing it. But I think life is the best teacher within itself. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes taking a break from acting to
Yes.
go and do something outdoors. I know you're somebody who enjoys the outdoors as well. And I know another few artists that I brought on the show talk about going for a bike ride, doing something outdoors, going for a hike. So for you, what are some exercises? Like, let's say, for example, it's like a dry season, you're not really getting like any callbacks or whatever it may be. Or let's say this on your downtime.
Yeah.
What can we find you doing? Like, what are you kind of doing day to day?
Yeah. I love being outdoors. And I also do like to volunteer at animal shelters. I love dogs. So just if I can be around animals, that gives me purpose too. Like I know we talked about purpose with acting, but like that just I don't know. Animals just make me so happy. So I could be completely content just working with animals if I didn't have acting. Um, so I would say just things like that. And I also love reading too. I just love learning different things. So I love reading, watching um, just informative videos, just things like that. I'm just really big into self care.
Absolutely. I mean, self-care is huge. Can we talk about that a little bit? What are some things that you kind of do to kind of work on that self-care?
Hmm. I love what you touched on earlier that you just need to take a break sometimes from acting and just focus on life because acting can be very demanding and take up a lot of time, and you forget that 3 months has passed and you didn't really get to accomplish a lot of things outside of acting. So I think it's really good to just take breaks and just take mental breaks as well if you feel like you're getting burnt out. Um, but I just think self care is a lot of rest, if that makes sense.
No, it definitely does. It
Like
definitely does.
not even just physical rest, but just mental rest. Like just don't work so much all the time. And that's something I have to tell myself all the time because I feel guilty if I don't work one day. I always feel like I have to be doing something to be productive, and I'm starting to be a lot easier on myself. Like, Haley, you deserve a rest day, or you've been working, 8 days straight. You can just be like a couch potato for a day.
Man, I'll say this, being your friend, I'm very happy to hear that you are taking your self-care a bit more serious and that you do understand that there is importance in resting. And I know you know this, but your body is an instrument. This industry is very demanding. Anything that you feel like is rightfully yours is going to cost you quite a bit. And yeah, I'm just happy, honestly, that you're kind of falling into that. So.
Yeah, thank you. And I know you've been harping on me a little bit about like getting the proper sleep and stuff because there was a point where I just wasn't really sleeping at all.
It's easier said than done because again, like life be life, and if we will, and a work schedule can get into play, and I mean a relationship can get into play, auditions can get into play. So
And,
there's so many different things. And kind of going back a little bit, it's like how do we know when we take a break? Sure, like we can kind of see where we're at physically and mentally, but sometimes people are like, oh man, if I let up now, I may never get this chance again. Or we'll say it on this end, I'm gaining so much momentum. You know what I'm saying? If I stop, I'm gonna lose this momentum. Do you find that to be true or false?
I think if you need a break, your body will. I don't know how to explain this. I've just known where I need to take a break because I am shutting down. I
Mhm.
feel myself shutting down, and you're like you said, your body is your instrument. Like it will communicate with you if you need to rest. And if you won't, it will do it for you. So those have been times where I've gotten sick because I didn't listen to my body saying we need to stop.
Mhm.
Um,
That's
so
probably the number one way. Yeah, that's probably the number one way, especially I know, again, just finding similarities in how we are. I know you're somebody to push your body to the limit physically. You work out, you come from an athletic background, and you still continue to do so. But yeah, that is like the number one way. Your body on telling you, hey, you need to slow down, Haley, or you need to slow down, Martin. And unfortunately, you get sick by doing that.
yeah, and that's why acting is also so important to know yourself and who you are. Because when I felt like I didn't know myself that well, I would push myself to those limits, and I would get burnt out, or I would end up sick somehow. But now I'm able to get to a point where I know, hey, if I keep going down this path, like if I'm just grinding as much as I am at this level, then I'm going to crash soon. So now I know like I can only take this amount of classes at one time, or maybe don't work overtime if I'm already like, just sleep deprived, things like that. Like you just have to really know yourself.
Absolutely. Let me see. Love that answer. I wanted to dive into what we were talking about on the phone earlier. I know previously before we shot this episode, I wanted to call you and kind of brief you on what we wanted to talk about. And I've
Mhm.
only gone to like maybe 3 or 4 questions that I've written down. So I always find that as a thumbs up. That's honestly super dope. And I want to shoot this question. This isn't one that's written down, but this was something that we were talking about on the phone earlier. But being a female in the industry, what is one challenge that you find being in the show business in industry?
Yeah. Just being guarded is really important. You don't want to be too guarded where your walls are completely up. You want to be able to approach people, but just understanding your surroundings and um, yeah, I guess just being aware of things. I had a really bad experience with my first film when I moved out here, and actually quit acting for a year because of that. Um, and I was so naive. I was so green, and I was just so excited to be on set. And when you're not aware of things, then that's when people are able to take advantage of that. So just be cognizant of that.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you had a bad experience and never wish that on anybody. That is very unfortunate, especially, I mean, you already see it in the industry now with everything with Hollywood and everything being exposed, man. It's no different on a local level. If people can think they can get away with it, it's annoying to say this, but it's true. They will probably make an attempt to do so. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And it is an unfortunate event. Um, what are some things to look out for? In your opinion, you know what I'm saying? Like we're at these events, we're on these sets. What's a few things to look out for?
Um, some red flags are just look into the contract for sure. And I know that like we're not lawyers or anything, but just look at it and assess to the best of your ability, because that's kind of what happened with me on the film is I was locked into a contract. I probably could have gotten out of it, but I just didn't know. I was scared.
Mhm.
And so just making sure you're aware of what's in the contract.
And can I just pause for just a second, not to cut you off, but you mentioned you were scared and afraid. How so?
To be honest with you, I didn't know if I was going to get another audition or a booking, as sad as that is, because this was a time when I was lucky if I got an audition. And this was my very first film that I booked. And that it just made me it just made me feel trapped. Is like, am I going to get another film? And I was also in a scarcity mindset. Like I didn't have an abundance mindset like I have now, where, well, there's just going to be another opportunity. I didn't know because I've already faced a bunch of rejection with very little success at that point. So I would say that's where me being scared came into play, and I didn't know how to even really communicate things like that to my family. I did tell my mom about it, and we talked about getting out of the contract, but um, yeah, it was just a really tough time.
Hmm. Haley, I want to thank you, of course, for you being open and honest and speaking your truth in your journey,
Yeah.
but ultimately for you being vulnerable. These could be touchy subjects, and I never want to go down a subject that, first of all, that you wouldn't be uncomfortable with. So thank you for sharing that. Again, wanting to highlight that because um, we're not the only ones. You know what I'm saying? We don't know who needs to hear this message. We don't know who we can inspire from these videos.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, it is going through our journeys and bringing what we have and what we've seen to the table.
Mhm.
Of course, we want everybody to be safe. We want everybody to have fun. But
Mhm.
most importantly, I say let's pick safety over fun.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not happy that it happened, but I am glad that I was able to have an experience like that just moving forward because now I'm aware of the red flags and I know what to look out for, what to stay away from. And um, yeah, it was just a really big learning experience for me so early on. So
mm,
moving forward after that, I just moved differently
mm,
where I have a different type of confidence. Like that's not going to happen again. And
yeah,
people
absolutely.
around me know that's people. I feel like I make it very aware. Like I don't have to say anything, but people just know. Like okay, she's not gonna. You know.
It
I don't.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you do give off that energy and that vibe, and I would say that that's absolutely a power, and that's a good thing. Definitely learn on how to use it more. You know what I'm saying? But that is a good thing. I also want to highlight the fact that it is important to, even on a local level, to have a circle of trust of people who are also doing like-minded people who are also into the same industry that you're in, just so they could have your back. Because again, growing up, I didn't have nobody who understood contracts. You also said the same thing, to where nobody in your family has ever done this. So who do we necessarily go to? I was thankful enough to have certain people on a local level to where I can reach out to and be like, "Yo, contracts are somewhat a scary thing, but if you understand it, you can kind of approach a contract with confidence." And it's really important to understand that there is power in saying no. I love the fact that you mentioned you didn't know at a young age that you will have an opportunity, that the abundance that's assigned to Haley is not going to miss Haley, not a day late. You know what I'm saying? So I am thankful that you came to that realization, but you do get stuck in that mindset sometimes.
Yeah, you really do, and it's something that like it creeps in still sometimes. Where if it's dead and you book an audition, it's hard not to kind of obsess over that. Like, am I going to get it? Is this going to be the film that I finally get to act in after a certain amount of months? Like, it's acting is tough. Like, this is a really tough industry. Yeah, it's just one of those things where you just have to have like a really strong passion for and um, yeah, just make the most of it.
Absolutely. Are there any projects that you're currently working on? Any recent projects that you just wrapped up that you want to talk about?
Yes, the biggest project I have in the works right now is my film Nocturnus. This is my first film I ever wrote. I'm so excited to shoot this thing this summer. I'm really excited that you're acting in it as well, and it's just I'm I'm excited because like my closest friends in the industry are in it, and when I thought of this idea, I just pictured everyone like, oh, they're gonna kill this role. They're gonna be so perfect for this, and their personality matches this so well. So um, I'm just more than ecstatic to just get this thing moving. We have the script done, and we're in the pre-production stages of everything. But yeah, it's all coming together.
I'm super excited, bro. And shout out before, I know you mentioned thank you for acting in it. Before I even came on board, like shout out to you having an idea being given to you, and you actually taking that idea, kind of marinating on it a little bit and actually going for it. A lot of people won't. It's a lot of insecurity. It's a lot of, like you mentioned, being scared or nervous or kind of living in fear. So many of the greatest projects or so many of the greatest ideas don't even make it past day one or shooting day one because people just don't have enough drive. And I know it's easier said than done financially, whatever it may be. I get it. But trust me, if there's a will, there's a way. There's so many projects that went up so much more of the odds that we're even up against that still got it done. I just know if we have faith and we really persevere, that we will get this project done and it'll be super awesome. I don't know if I can name drop because I'm excited who's also going to be a part of this project. Not only just the cast members, but yo, the people shooting it. So
Mhm.
I can't wait. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And I want to say thank you for thinking of me to bring me on this project.
absolutely. And it was just funny thinking back to when I first called you about it. Like I
Hmm.
was driving and the idea just popped in my head, and I was like,
Hmm.
"Oh my god, this is gonna be a good film," you know. And I called you just mostly because I didn't want to like forget about it, and I didn't
Hmm.
want the idea to just slip away somehow. But also, I just wanted like the reassurance, like, do you think we could make a film like this? Like, I mean, you've never made a film, right?
Never. No.
Yeah. So this was just out of our comfort zone for sure. But it's just like, how do we make this happen? And
I know the easiest thing for me, like being a part of this project, was obviously you kind of figuring out who you wanted to play who, and I can kind of reach out, or you can reach out to people. I knew that was going to be the easiest part, like aside from scheduling and stuff like that.
yeah,
But yeah, I have no experience on how a film is put together. Sure, being a part of a project, and once you get cast on a project, you're probably that's later in the steps. Like the pre-work has already been done, so now we're being involved in the pre-work, which again, sure, it may take a little bit longer. But hey,
mhm,
I don't want to skip not one stone that needs to be checked out and turned,
yeah,
because we do need to learn every step. And on the next project, should there be a next project, and I feel like there will be,
mhm,
we'll have less boxes to check. You know what I'm saying? We'll not be able to skip steps, but we'll have more knowledge approaching the second one. And that's
mhm.
how we get comfortable with acting. That's how we grow our confidence in acting, is it not?
Yeah, I think that's the main thing too is just gaining knowledge. Kind of like what we talked about earlier, just being open to it. And this has
Mhm.
been such a learning curve. That is a complete understatement. But I'm glad I had this experience, and I'm glad that I failed where I did because now moving forward, one for the feature film, and also if I happen to just make films down the road, like now it's just gonna be a lot smoother process because we've there's trial and error and you learn what works, what doesn't work. And yeah, I'm just excited and I feel like this has turned out 10 times better than I was expecting to. I was just kind of expecting it to be a little bit of a mess, but it's that's why networking is just so important too because we're able to um, just find people who are really interested in doing a project like this and just helping out in any way they can. And mostly like just moral support too. This is a lot. This is
I feel
it's
like networking is building the project within itself, because had it not been for networking, we wouldn't be able
yeah.
to reach out to, dude, just wait until people hear like who else is on this project. But we wouldn't be able to reach out to these certain individuals and pitch them the idea had it not been for networking, or the producers or the directors had it not been for putting yourself out there and doing the damn thing. Of course,
Mhm.
do it scared, do it nervous. We've seen that quote: do it scared, do it nervous, do it broke, do it
Yeah,
this, do it that.
you know.
But it's so true. Absolutely. Um, I don't know, man. This has been such a good topic. I also wanted to ask you.
Mhm.
We've jumped into many different topics, in
Yeah.
which I love. You know, I really, really do love that. I want to end it on, where do you see yourself in like the next few years? Not to be very interviewee to end it on that question, but within the industry, within you being an entrepreneur, and you understanding like more of your assignment, where do you see yourself in the next few years?
Um this is gonna be a huge milestone, but I do see myself accomplishing this in the next couple of years, but being able to work as a full-time actor. I still have a full-time job, which I'm very thankful because I only work 3 days and get 4 days off. So it's very easy for me to act, but I want to just be able to focus on acting and modeling and just be able to call that my job, you know. And I do see myself doing that in a couple of years. Booking more commercials. I want to book at least one national commercial in the next couple of years, and we'll see. Possibly moving to LA.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I see it. I feel like it's still open, and I'm okay with just seeing where everything goes with time. But I have a really good feeling about the next couple of years, though.
Absolutely. You already know I'm rooting for you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not the only one. I'm sure there's many people behind me that see you and that are also rooting for you. But again, like, I'm wanting to bring people on to share their story, but ultimately to bring value, yes, but to celebrate people, because it is fun. It is encouraging to see somebody who's got goals and vision and dreams, more importantly, and to go after them. So it is talking about the how in a sense, but more so being disciplined. So Haley, I thank you so much for your time, and I do appreciate you spending time shooting this episode with me. But
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you so much, Martin. This was so much fun just talking about it and, just thinking of things I haven't really thought about before.
hmm Absolutely. I appreciate you being vulnerable. I appreciate you bringing a lot of light. Please continue to do so. And bro, you already know, should you need anything, I got your back. So just give me a call, shoot me a text, whatever it may be, and I got your back.